Well, the Browns received news today that Sue L. Robinson, the retired federal judge who is the NFL's disciplinary officer, ruled a 6-game suspension for Deshaun Watson. Now, Mary Kay, that is, of course, pending a potential appeal by the NFL, which we don't know just yet as we're recording this if they will appeal. But 6 games it is for now. Your reaction when you first heard the suspension?
Well, it was a little shorter than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would probably be somewhere in the 6 to 8 range, but probably closer to 8. I think the Browns are probably pretty happy with this. I think Deshaun Watson's camp is happy with this. And we know the NFLPA, the union, is not going to fight this. So now, of course, we just have to wait and see what the NFL is going to do. I think the fact that it is 6 games instead of maybe 8 might lend itself to an appeal by the NFL. That has to happen within 3 days.
Ashley, your initial reaction?
Yeah, mine was similar to Mary Kay's. I kind of expected around this range of games, but really my initial reaction was just that even though we know the NFLPA and Deshaun Watson had no plans to appeal this regardless of what the ruling was, it just still feels far from over. Like the weight of these allegations, I know there's a segment of NFL fans, of Browns fans that aren't going to forget this anytime soon, even though that initial ruling is out. And also the fact that we've known through Mary Kay's reporting that the NFL is planning to keep the right that they have to appeal, and we don't have a final decision on that. But as we know, this is just the initial ruling. It could be altered if they do appeal.
Now, the other thing is we did get to see the full ruling from Sue Robinson. You actually go to cleveland.com/Browns and see a PDF of the full ruling. She had pretty strong language for both the NFL and for Watson, but she did find pretty strongly, Mary Kay, that he violated all 3 of the prongs of the personal conduct policy.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL went after 3 things, and she found that it met the burden of proof for her. But the reason why I think her suspension was on the short side is because there was no precedent for a nonviolent sexual misconduct to have a lengthier suspension. And so therefore, she didn't feel that it was up to her to issue this indefinite suspension for a minimum of a year. She kept it more in line with some of the other suspensions.
Yeah, Ashley, we were talking in the media room about the difference between violent and nonviolent. She seemed to distinguish between that, but she did call this the most egregious nonviolent sexual assault case that the NFL's investigated.
Yeah, she really clarified, I think, that this is unprecedented in a lot of ways. But again, she did rely heavily on precedent where there is precedent, and that is in past suspensions. And another thing that was interesting in the conclusion of her ruling was when she said, with public outcry in the past, the CBA, the disciplinary procedures had been changed proactively. In this case, she thought to go with a larger suspension would be kind of bucking the trend. It would be changing it after the fact, and she said that's not fair to Deshaun Watson ultimately.
So, Mary Kay, if the NFL ultimately does choose to appeal, what do you think they would try to do?
Well, they've all along wanted a very lengthy suspension for Deshaun Watson. Once again, they believe that because of the sheer volume of the accusations, that they believe that he should be out for the year. I don't know if they would go that far. Roger Goodell, of course, hears the suspension, hears the appeal. I don't know if they would try to go for the year. If they do that, you can fully expect the NFLPA to sue them and for this thing to go to federal court and for there to be a battle. So the NFL has to decide if it really wants to do that and go to those lengths and have this dragged out in court and in the court of public opinion.
So, Ashley, it sounds like we could be a ways away from the ultimate resolution here.
We could, and again, that's kind of why that was my initial thought when this ruling came out. It just feels like it still is kind of undone until we hear word one way or another what the NFL is going to do from here.
All right, like I said, you can read the full report. We have full coverage of everything that happened today, including what Kevin Stefanski had to say in his press conference after practice. It's all at cleveland.com/Browns.